Hi guys, it's Nicole and I am participating in the elementary school section of Sara's School Hop. I did want to just include a little bit of an intro for anybody that is possibly new to my channel or maybe did not see these videos previously on my channel. I am working on, I'm gonna for sure do at least one page today. I may go ahead and try to do a couple while I've got everything pulled out. Basically, this is my method for housing, documenting, however you want to call it, the basic school photo that your kids do every year. My kids have this one that they do in the fall, and then there's one that they do in the spring where you kind of pick your background and it's more of like a full like torso shot, and it's a little bit more like relaxed. This is the one that goes in the yearbook. So for me, I choose to use these ones. I don't know what I'm going to do with the spring ones yet. That's an issue for another day. This was the first one that I did, and this is actually a scrap lift from an old video on the 2 Peas in a Bucket channel. It was one that Nicole McGuire had done, and she actually had like a companion page that went with it that featured some like artwork and stuff that her child at the time had done in kindergarten. This is as far as I've gotten in my process with these, is to just have the year, have the grade, have the photo, and at least have that much done to kind of satisfy my brain. Now, I only have, I think I've done first, second, kinder first and second for my son. He's now in 7th grade, so I'm a little behind. The last time I did this, so I have one video showing this one, and then I have another video. I believe the other ones I did like off camera. So I have a total of 5 that I've done, and I keep it kind of similar where I've got a background paper, I have something down here, I have 3 border strips, I've got my title, I stamp my date, I come up with some kind of a way to combine a bunch of stamps, and then I just add a little bit of embellishing here and there. And then I basically change it up a little bit with the different borders, the different patterns, different stamps, things like that. The stamp phrases I think is probably the hardest thing that I actually have to come up with, and a lot of times I will copy it when it's from one kid to the other, and I'm okay with that. So the only ones I have so far, like I said, he's got kinder through 2nd. I've only done pre-K and kinder for my daughter. And again, it's the same overall design, but based on the papers that I choose, the embellishments that I choose and stuff like that, it does look a little bit different. But this is what I like. And I am a big proponent for you do what works for you, you find a system, a method, whatever, you do what you like. So today I'm gonna work on these. Originally, like, even though I hop around, I kind of wanted to either do like 3rd grade for my son or 1st grade for my daughter. However, I don't know where those photos are. I have, like, I keep all of their photos in like the envelopes that they come in. I've got my daughter's 3rd grade. So I think today I'm gonna work on 3rd grade for her, because I'm gonna be using the 3rd grade cut file, which is an old one from Carrie Bradford. I may as well go ahead and cut 3rd grade for my son as well and have it. More than likely, I'm going to end up keeping all of this out this week and see how many I can get done, and check a couple other places in my house. I kind of store different school stuff in different places. Sometimes the photos immediately come up here, sometimes they don't. So I think my goal is to just kind of start with 1 for the hop and see how far I get. If I end up doing more, I will probably just put them on maybe Instagram or my Facebook group. I don't know. We'll see if I end up doing a dedicated video for that. So knowing kind of what my process is, I just did a quick kind of dig through of my room. I found this background paper, which is super old, from Elle Studio. This to me is very school. I like a good wood grain, grid, text, that kind of thing for background, especially for school. I dug through some of my school stuff, and here's one of those 3 borders that I was talking about. I think I'm going to use a row of pencils for another one. and then maybe a row of cursive text, because overall I like these colors together. And then that leaves me the big notebook piece and something down here to kind of fill in. So this I think I'm going to use for my notebook piece because most of this gets cut off or covered. So this will be perfect. I actually have a ton of these because I think I bought a pack of this at Tuesday morning. This was another one that I had found, and I kind of decided I didn't want to quote unquote waste it. So it's not a waste, but this is a big chunk of a paper like this, so I would rather use something that I have multiple sheets of. And then I pulled these two. I really like the gray, but to me this pattern is just too big, because typically in this bottom section is where I find an opportunity to put a little bit of embellishing, and I kind of feel like this might be a little bit too busy. I may change my mind. So I found this, which is like a bunch of math equations, again from ColieBing Soup. I think I've used the books before. So I think I'm going to put this down there, and to me this is just a little bit more subtle version of a B-side. So yeah. And then for my dates that I do, this first one, and I talk about it in this video and I talk about it in the second video that I did. This one, I actually die cut these letters on my silhouette and like ink blended through them like a stencil, but it was super hard for me to line it up, and I think I had to do this 2 or 3 times. Later, I was digging through my stash and I actually found these giant number stamps. They're on like thin, it's thicker than acetate, but it's a super old stamp set from, I want to say like QVC or Lisa Berenson or something. It came in one of those like sketch idea books, and it's got an alphabet and stuff like that. I've kept it for years and only ever used it for this. Eventually I may look for a like regular kind of stamp set for numbers or something, but for now this works for me. It's a little fiddly, it's fine. And then for the stamped phrase that I was talking about earlier, I just grabbed a bunch of the sets that I have used the phrases from before. These are super old. This Tiger Builder one from Ellie Studio that I still have yet to use. I kind of want to try to use this. And then I've got some like school themed stamp sets off to the side. And then I typically wait to decide on things like stickers, labels, stuff like that until I get like the important parts down. And then I kind of pick and choose some embellishments. So I'm going to go ahead and get going and see if I stop at one or if I keep going. The actual assembly of the page is going to be fairly quick. And a lot of that is because most of the time spent on these types of layouts for me is the decision making. It's digging through papers more than once, deciding on the background, deciding on the border strips, just making decisions. Same thing with when I get to the stamps and I'm picking out ink colors in an order. Those are the things that probably take me the longest. Everything else, I know exactly where it's going to go, and I don't have to measure anything because I just kind of fit things as I go along. I have learned through this process to do my border punch at the top first, and I have 3 different like notebook punches, so I just kind of go between the 3 of them and pick whichever one I'm kind of in the mood for that day. I was a little bummed that for whatever reason, the photos from this specific school year just were not great. This was when they went back to school in person after a year of distance learning, and I'm not sure if they used a different photo company or what, but both my kids, their photos came back a little bit just blurry, and they just weren't like those super crisp like school photos that we all kind of have come to expect and love. So I was just kind of bummed that the one that I had decided to work on today was just dark and a little blurry, but it is what it is. It still depicts her in 3rd grade, and we're going to go with that. Now, what I ended up doing was I pulled out my ink swatch sheet for my Distress Oxides. I find that these just tend to work a little bit better with this specific stamp set. These stamps are actually foam, and the pigment quality of the Distress Oxides just kind of sits on the surface of these a little better instead of soaking in. So again, this is a process that I've done more than once, and I've just kind of learned along the way what I like and what I don't like. And I just kind of eyeball like the pattern papers that I'm using and try to pull colors that I think are going to be kind of a close match. I'm not very, I don't want to say I'm not good, but it's not a comfort to me to randomly mix colors. So I think the last few of these that I have worked on, I have just decided to do them in rainbow order because it makes sense to me. It's a little bit easier to decide which color to do for which number, and that's what's working for me. Again, every time I kind of sit down and do these, I change something up a little bit. So next time I may mix up the colors a little bit. It's just whatever I'm in the mood for. And again, it's these small decision-making steps that honestly take me the longest. I am just using a cleaning rag with some water to clean the ink off. Again, this is just something that I've learned over the course of doing these, that because they're foam, they do soak up a little bit of it, but it comes off really easily. And like that too, I'm using it 4 times. So I have to clean them in between. I don't really have a choice. And I always do the full year on the left, 2 digits for the second part of the school year on the right, and I start on the left, and then when I get to the second year, I come in from the right, and however big the gap is between the numbers is the space that I have left to embellish. So I've learned to just kind of make sure that I do that, otherwise it doesn't really look as centered. And then my son, I have 3 completed pages. My daughter, I only had 2. So it was an easy option for me to just copy the phrase from the 3rd page that I had done of my son's instead of sitting here and trying to come up with a new one. I don't have a ton of specific phrases for like school, kids, childhood, that kind of stuff. So again, this is one of those steps that takes me a little bit of time because I'm sitting here basically playing like a game with all of these stamps to come up with something that somewhat reads as a sentence or a phrase and isn't just a bunch of different words going across. I have done the different words going across, but I separated them with like a star or a heart stamp so that it looked more like a bulleted list. Now, this was the point in the process where I forgot that I am supposed to trim down my notebook paper so that it is about 11.5 to 11 inches wide. Thankfully, I did have enough wiggle room just where I had chose to put the stamps based on the pattern that trimming it off, I wasn't going to lose anything from the dates. And I do try to make sure that I'm working from the top edge and the bottom edge, and I'm kind of meeting in the middle. And this is what determines my spacing and size decisions on how big I'm going to cut my title, the border strips, any kind of embellishing. This is the part where it kind of varies from page to page, even though I'm following a similar like setup for the page. On, I think one of my son's pages, his borders were super big. So like one of them, I had the photo in front of the measuring tape or the ruler one, and then the other 2, I kind of, like I said, I just go based on how much room I have. Her photo, I did trim about 1/4 of an inch off above her head. I just try to make sure that I'm not going down to her hair, and I've got that little bit of room sometimes matters to me. So these are the 3 borders that I picked. I did go ahead and I cut 2 of these titles out so that I can go ahead and work on my son's page next. I only have 1 page in the video today. I was a little crunched on time. I thought I might have been able to get 2 of them done before I had to go do my first round of school pickup, but I only got 1 done, so I figured, you know what, I'll leave everything out and kind of slowly work my way through a couple grades per kid and just kind of see where I go. At some point, I will figure out like a companion page to do for some of the memorabilia and just the things that were going on during those grades, whether it's award assemblies, the actual certificates, any kind of like choir performance, special clubs, field day, that kind of thing. These aren't even in an album because I keep them out to refer to them every time I make a page to kind of remind myself of what I've used and what kind of system I have built for myself. From there, I like to just kind of do this stacking thing. This was again something that I had learned 10 years ago watching that 2 Peas in a Bucket channel. Nicole McGork used to do this a lot, and it was just something that I was like, you know what, it's so simple and it adds a little bit more pattern and color. So I do a smaller circle of a pattern paper. In this instance, I chose a pink because I realized at this point I didn't have any pink going on and she's wearing pink. Normally I don't really care, but I've noticed on her school pages, I do try to incorporate a little bit of pink just because it's so indicative of her. And then I do a larger circle of vellum, and then so far, I think almost all of them I've done some kind of a star die cut. This pack that I have was like a punch out sheet from Jelly Bean Soup that I absolutely love. I keep forgetting that I have a Tracy Reed print and cut school collection that I really like the colors of. Some of these sticker sheets that are on the left of me, I don't really love, but I do kind of go through and pull out a lot of like the pencils and crayons and stuff like that. It doesn't bother me that I'll probably never use like that giant school bus and some of those big icons. I just pick and choose the things that I like and I go with it. Whatever is left over after I do all of this, it's not going to bother me. I always think that I have more embellishments for this school project than I actually do. And then it goes in the back of my mind that maybe I should go look and see if in the last 6 or 7 years, if anybody else has done like some stamped phrases or just different things that I find myself using repeatedly in this style of like memory keeping. So if you know of any good like school phrases or even like kid phrases stamp sets, drop like the brand name at least in the comments for me so that I can kind of go do some research and see what's out there, because I kind of think that I need to add a little bit more school theme specific phrases and words that are big like this. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys here. Make sure to check the description box below for links to the rest of the hop. This again is the elementary school one, and I will hopefully catch you guys again soon. And as always, I thank you guys for stopping by.